Hey, it's Dave here, and I thought I'd jump on this thread that was started by Michael uh, over his video channel is known as Clash City Rockers, and the name of the thread is the Non-Completist record collection, and Vinyl Richie did his video on it, and Mark Morris as well. I saw all three of those. And Vinyl Richie said, you ought to join in on this. And I pulled some records. I wasn't very methodical about it, but, I'll pull some so I can talk about a few of them. Before we get into it, though, I watched this the other day. It's called Erg, a Music War. And it's a bunch of new wave punk acts back in the 70s, 77 to 80s. And it was done really well. They sharpened the color on it and everything. Now, as time has gone by, this came out in, I don't know, like this came out in 85 or 81. But, my enjoyment of some of these acts has kind of waned. And so I just kind of skipped through them. But there's a lot of good ones on here. The opening by The Police is just like really good. If you've ever wondered why The Police were such a great act, watch that, and that's a good example of why they were, because Sting was an amazing bassist and singer and had good looks. He had all three. And Stuart Copeland was a really good drummer. I think him and maybe Phil Collins and a few others. I usually don't listen to drummers that much, but yeah, they're really good up there, along with Pert from not Pert, but the guy in Rush. And then you got golly, I'm forgetting his name. Their guitarist, Andy Summers, as a guitarist. All three of them were like really excellent. So it's no wonder that they became the I don't know if you could say the word supergroup, but became as popular as they were. And then you've also got like the Go-Go's on here, which was sort of interesting. You got a guy named Skatefish who did a act on here, and there was a band on here called Chelsea. They were out of LA, and all these were shot in like either LA or Britain. You had a band from LA called Chelsea that was pretty interesting and, fairly strong. So, yeah, like I said, it's up on YouTube if you want to check it out. So back to vinyl. This is called the Non-Completist record collection. And basically, as if you've got several records by an artist, say Bob Dylan, which I didn't include here, I don't think. Pick one album that you generally reach for, consider, I guess, better than the others. With a lot of bands, I just didn't pull anything to show because, like Bob Dylan, I like a lot of his stuff, and it really depends on my mood. If I were to pick one, it would probably be Nashville Skyline, or oh golly, there's another one of his, which I'm not remembering the title for, but anyway, Nashville Skyline would suffice. But you got Blonde on Blonde. He just has such a huge discography. It would be hard just to pare it down to one, because like a lot of this, for me anyway, is based on my mood. A lot of it is based on memory, like, what was I doing at the time? Was I doing something with friends or my brother or something like that kind of triggers a memory in my head? So, and Joni Mitchell, she's another one kind of like that. I could say Court and Spark, or I could say Ladies of the Canyon. All those are really great albums. Neil Young is another one that kind of falls into that category. I was listening to his first album the other day, which I've read some people think is overproduced, but, I like that, and I was listening to Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. Again, it just really depends on what song I want to hear off of that album, or if a song gets kind of stuck in my head like an earworm, that's I want to pull it out and hear it. So anyway, here's some albums. This is Johnny Winter's first album, and for me, it's generally the one I usually listen to. His other one that came after this, Progressive Blues Experiment, is another good one. These are the other two guys. I'm guessing it was just a trio then. Here's a picture. I believe that's Willie Dixon. Yeah, and also his brother Edgar Winters was on here as well. But it's got some nice songs on it, and it's generally the one I usually pull and listen to. For Pink Floyd, I usually go to this one. I know a lot of people would prefer Dark Side of the Moon or maybe Animals or something like that, one of their more popular albums. But for me, this is the first Pink Floyd album I picked up. And it's the generally one I like. I probably picked it up for the cover, with it going back like that. And I think if you look further back, you can see like one of their first albums back up in there. But I always like the look of it and the insides of it and the music too. I mean, as Stephen Wilson of Porcupine Tree said, this is kind of reminded him of 21st century music, and that's the way it is for me too, even though, say, Pink Floyd has more or less discredited the album. I've always found this one really interesting. Speaking of the Police, Regatta de Blanc is the one I would probably go to, either this one or the next one. The Police. For the Doors, I'd probably say this one here, Strange Days. It's the first album I bought by them. And I just really like the way that this album segues, the songs segue into each other. I like the way the first song, title cut, Strange Days, has Morrison's vocal going through that funny, whatever it is, studio device. Kind of makes his vocal sound odd. And I don't even mind, he does a poem on here called Horse Latitudes. Recitation, and that doesn't bother me. I actually like that. And then you've also got When the Music's Over and People Are Strange, just an overall good album. For the Clash, I do Combat Rock. For me, this is the only one I listen to mostly. The first album was too punk for me, and Sandinista was too overblown, I think. But this one, it's got several songs that they had on the radio. Should I Stay or Should I Go? What else? Rockin' the Casbah. I like that song Straight to Hell, which they end with. And I'm not real sure what that's about, but I'm assuming it may be about people in foreign countries that we have invaded as a nation, and maybe then leave everything behind and come back, to America. I don't know that for sure. A lot of people say that the Clash were really political in their, I guess, songs and songwriting. I have no idea. I've never really searched any of that. I couldn't tell you. Another band that's like that would be Gang of Four, which I do enjoy some of their stuff. Again, it's supposed to be real political. I couldn't tell you, unless I looked it up on the web. It's real hard for me to, pick it up from the lyrics and understand what they're talking about. But anyway, The Clash, The Cure, Boys Don't Cry. One of the bands that have like a lot of records, and depending on my mood, it really depends on what I want to hear. But this was the first album I bought by them. I think I heard it in a record shop when I was in Austin, and it struck a chord with me. But Yeah, got to see The Cure in Austin many years ago, actually. And they were great. Probably back in the 80s or something like that. But yeah, real fun time. XTC, Drums and Wires. Probably this is the first album I picked up by them too. And just like that Cure album, I was in a record shop there in Austin and probably heard this playing and picked it up. Also, I really thought the cover. Uh, Making Plans for Nigel. I mean, there are a lot of good songs on here, and they're all real short and everything. It'd either be this album or Skylarking by them. And it kind of really depends. Skylarking is more subdued, I guess you might say, in its mood. And this is more energetic. But yeah, they're both good. Really depends on what you want to hear. Pat Metheny Group. First album I bought by them, and still listen to it today. I mean, it's a real nice listen, and quartet, and Pat Metheny plays guitar, and then you've got Lyle Mace here on keyboards, who has since passed, and drums and bass. So yeah, again, this guy has a ton of albums. And you could probably pick any one. Just really depends on what you want to hear. Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble, Texas Flood. Yeah, I'd go with this one. I mean, he's got several, but this is the first album I picked up by him, and still listen to it occasionally. Not a huge blues fan as much as I used to be, but I'll listen to stuff like this and stuff that kind of borders on blues and rock, like that Johnny Winters album. But yeah, good Texas artist. Stevie Wonder, Intervisions, is that the name of this? Yeah, Intervisions. And yeah, this has a lot of good Stevie Wonder songs on it. Here's the gatefold. The back. But first Stevie Wonder album I bought, and it has Higher Ground, Don't You Worry About a Thing, Living in the City. You know, it's a really good Stevie Wonder album. If you like Stevie Wonder, Intervisions. Brand X. This is probably the first Brand X album I bought. And they're like jazz rock, jazz fusion maybe. Phil Collins on drums. But yeah, really good jazz rock album. Close to the Edge by Yes. And probably my favorite album by them, but I mean, it's probably a favorite album of a lot of people that like Yes. But I have this in 3 different formats. This I've got this on CD and cassette. But a nice inside gatefold for it, suitable for framing actually. But yeah. Wonderful album. As far as the Mothers, I've already shown this, Freak Out. For me, the Mothers and Frank Zappa and the Mothers, I'd say the first 3 albums, Freak Out, Absolutely Free, and We're Only in It for the Money, are probably my favorite 3 by them. But then he kind of changed direction somewhat later on, and kind of went a little bit more away from this style into kind of jazz rock and that type of thing. And of those, I like later in his career, I like Apostrophe and One Size Fits All. And then much later, I like that album called A Boat Saving a Drowning Witch or something like that. It was an all-white cover. Joe's Garage and some of those albums in there. You know, I like that, or some of the other ones too. It just really depends on, again, my mood. So, yeah, there you have it. That was a few. I didn't pull everything. You know, and I thought of bands all along the way, like Bruce Springsteen. I'd probably go Darkness at the Edge of Town with Springsteen, but you know, it really depends on what I want to hear by him. Even his first two albums I thought were really great. Greetings from New Jersey, and I forget the other title. You know, and the Beatles, I mean, I'd probably pull Beatles 65 because that was the first Beatle albums I ever got, which was given to me for a Christmas that year, along with a stereo. So, you know, the memories of that are still really strong, and got me on this whole thing of, you know, music. I was listening to music before then, but, you know, once I got a player, then I started buying stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll do one a little bit later with CDs and see what I can pull. But anyway, there is a reply to this, the Non-Completist record collection. And I'm not really a completist. You know, if there's an album that I don't particularly care for in a band, like Frank Zappa is a, you know, good example. I was buying everything he put out up until I bought The Man from Utopia, and also that box set called Thingfish. And The Man from Utopia, I liked a few songs on there, but then there were like the song about the kitchen. But, you know, in Thingfish, it just, the whole album, the whole box set thing was flat for me, so I ended up getting rid of them. But, yeah, that kind of ended my completist. And I'm sort of that way about anybody. If it's a band that I collected for a long time and maybe the songs on it don't inspire me or make me want to hear it much, then I'll tend to get rid of it. Granted, there are some albums I've gotten rid of, and then I want them back. But there's some albums I've gotten rid of that I wish I hadn't. But I guess that's all part of being, you know, music lover and music collector. So anyway, the Non-Completist record collection. And yeah, I'll talk to you later.